I was like, my heart was,
was
racing. You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna go over here. We're gonna park. We're all gonna get off with M1s. It's fucking 2:00 in the afternoon, and we're gonna start dumping. My boy Villain One.
What's up, bro?
Man? About time, right?
Yeah, bro. It's been a minute.
I'm glad that we finally made this happen, man. You know, I know you on a personal level, but some of this audience doesn't know you yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people have a misconception that this podcast is a music podcast because, you know, I make music.
Yeah.
But as you know, this podcast is mostly to be able to speak about us being victorious from some type of despair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I know you as Villain One, but tell the audience, who is Villain One?
Fundamentally who I am?
Yeah, like, where were you born? Your siblings? Where did you grow up?
Well, okay, start off. I'm from Oceanside, California. I was raised in the North Valley area, Mesa Margarita area. I come from a family of 11 siblings.
Wow, 11 siblings.
11 siblings, yeah. My parents migrated here, I think in the early 70s from Mexico. I think my parents brought 4 siblings.
So 4 were born over there?
4 were born over there.
And the rest were born here?
Yeah, the rest were born here. You know, typical Mexican family, you know, a lot of hardships.
Right.
Very poor.
Right.
For the most part. But, you know, Pops always made sure he put food on the table and had a roof over our head.
You have a good relationship with your parents?
My mother, yeah. My father growing up, not so much. There was a huge gap there between me and him.
What do you think that was?
I think it was more so from, I don't know if it was the age, because I was one of the last siblings. I mean, my oldest brother is 50 years old.
Oh, okay.
So you can just imagine, when I was born, he was like 15 years old.
Right.
My dad was already in his late 30s, you know what I mean?
Right.
Tired as fuck probably already.
Yeah.
Sick of all those kids already.
Hey, but what about your relationship with your siblings?
Great, bro.
All of them?
Yeah, we've always been solid, bro.
And mom solid?
Mom,
just dad?
I'm my mama's boy.
So, okay.
Yeah, I'm the consentido, bro. Yeah,
you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm the baby boy.
That's why you're spoiled, though, right?
Yeah, I'm the baby boy, bro. Trust me, bro. I get clowned all the time. My siblings are going to see this shit and they be like, yeah, he ain't lying. Yeah, for real. So I'm a mama's boy to this day.
All right,
my mom's always been really tight. Like, she's always been like my number one supporter.
Oh, well, that's
great.
Everything,
bro.
What does your pop say about you making music?
You know what? Now it's better. You know what I mean? Like, growing up, I didn't. I mean, we didn't see eye to eye. I don't know if it was.
Was he like machismo, kind of?
Machismo for sure.
Okay,
yeah,
that's big in our culture. You know.
Yeah, that shit.
You know, man, that's one of the things that I think it's important, especially now that we're fathers.
Yeah.
That we have to change that dynamic and that traditional thinking. You know, I think something that men, in my opinion, should openly be able to speak about is how we feel when we experience real intimacy that has absolutely nothing to do with sex.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
That's how we experience love.
Yeah.
And when we experience love like that, then we can project love like that to our children.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Being gentle, being kind, being compassionate. See, I didn't grow up with my dad. I just grew up with my mom. But my older brother, he was animalistic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That dude was like a saber-toothed tiger, bro. You know? So were you guys able to close the gap as you got older?
Yeah, as we got older, yeah, of course. But like, to go back a little bit, it's like I was the last I was one of the last. I got a little sister, and that was it. That was me and my little sister. We were the last of them.
Okay.
And so I was raised around majority women. Like, like, you know, they say, like, when you like, from the exterior part of me, or when you look at me from the exterior, like, I look like this macho tough guy, but I have a lot of feminine traits. Like,
right.
What I mean by that is that, like, I'm very sentimental when it comes to women.
Right.
And I was raised around majority women, so I picked up on those traits. And I think my father, being the machismo the way he was, I was very like cariñoso with my mom. Like,
Right.
I was always
He didn't like that?
I was always the one hugging my mom. I love you,
Right.
mom. You're so beautiful.
Yeah.
I was that type of kid. With my siblings, with my sisters, I was like that. And I think maybe that rubbed my dad the wrong. But I don't know. I always, those are questions that I've always asked growing up. Like, why the fuck was he so tough on me? You know what I mean?
Well, you know what they say, like our childhood always shows up in our adulthood.
Yeah.
Like there's still probably things that you don't understand. I don't
It's
understand.
generational trauma too.
Yeah, it is.
And that's one thing I
1,000,000%.
That's one thing I learned like now as an adult. My mom's, and it wasn't even my father's. My mom telling me my father's stories.
Right. Your dad doesn't share stories with you?
He doesn't. My dad's he's a man of a few words.
Oh.
To this day, he's still the same way. I mean,
Quiet.
like, very quiet guy. You're around him and he won't speak a word unless you start talking to him.
What about when you were in school? Did he participate?
Not too much, man.
Mom
to
did?
be honest, my dad was just one good thing I learned from my father is how to be a hardworking man.
Go.
My dad was a hardworking man. Like,
Discipline.
Despite the way he may have been with my mother and how he was with us siblings, he was a hardworking man. Like that's one thing that I salute him to this day. Like that guy worked his ass off. 2 jobs, night shift, day job, food on the table, roof over our head. Always. I mean, he was consistent with that.
Right.
I mean, he may have not been the best father, and I mean, it was.
And I see that in you.
Yeah.
Like you're a hard worker and you love your kids.
And I got that from him. I got that. That's one thing I learned from my father is to work hard and not give up. That's one thing he never did. I mean, is walk out on us. I mean, and I appreciate him for that.
For sure.
But yeah, we had that conversation as an adult where he came up to me. I already had my 3 kids, and he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Dad, hey son, I want to talk to you about something. I'm sorry for how hard I was on you growing up." And I was like, "Dad, you know what? Save it. Like, you know, honestly, Dad, like it's cool. Like I forgive you for it, and I understand now. And because of you, I am the person I am today.
Right.
All that hardship, all that tough love, like it made me the person I am today.
Right. That felt good.
It felt good
For you to have that moment with him.
Yeah, to have that moment with him, and as well, like I think that gave him a little closure.
Closures. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To understand. I mean, the whatever he may have done, it's all right.
Was there ever a time, not to cut you off, was there ever a time that before you guys had that talk that things felt different, and then after the talk they didn't feel like that no more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it was closure.
For sure.
For both of you?
Yeah, it just my dad is he's the type of man that like it's hard to admit his wrongs. It's hard to show any type of emotion or any type of vulnerability.
Probably from his pops, you know?
To this day.
Did you meet your grandparents?
Yeah. I mean, my grandpa was the same way.
Same way.
His father was the same way. So it was literally generational trauma. I mean, it was passed down. My grandfather was really aggressive. I mean, with his kids, and I mean my grandmother. So he was taught that. I mean, that's all he knew was to be that. And now I understand that. When you're a kid, you don't understand. You're just like fuck that guy. I hate him. And I was, for the most part, I was like fuck this guy. I can't fucking stand him. I mean, but it's because I didn't understand. Now I do as an adult, obviously, right? And with that, it's obviously it brings a lot of closure to yourself. You mean, just learning to understand that shit. That a lot of that shit wasn't personal. You mean,
Yeah, but you, like you said, learning.
Yeah,
like we have to be open to learning. You know,
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a little bit later. But what about your teenage years? Tell me about your teenage years.
My teenage years, man. I was bad as hell.
And how did your parents and your siblings feel about that?
Oh, all my brothers doing the same shit.
So your brothers, you guys were all
all gang members. I mean, like, from the oldest to me, the youngest. I mean, I grew up seeing
your brothers bang.
My brothers doing it, so
you were doing it.
Yeah, I kind of you know what? It's crazy because my brothers didn't want it for me. I was the baby, and they're like, "Nah, you ain't gonna be in that. Like that's not gonna be your lifestyle.
Right?
You do something different." But they're all in and out of prison. My brother that's 2 years older than me went to YA when he was 16. I was 14, kind of left me by myself. So after that, I kind of just fell in line.
Did you end up getting incarcerated too?
Yeah. I was in and out of juvenile hall from a young age. I think like 14, something like that, 13, 14. Yeah, I was in and our juvenile
So your
halls.
parents were dealing with all of you
All of us, bro.
going
Oh,
in.
yeah,
And what about your sisters?
those are definitely my rebellious years.
What about your sisters?
Um, like half of them were.
Gang banging
Yeah,
too?
half of them were.
So
gangbanging.
gang banging family.
For sure. For sure, bro. It's sad, bro.
Damn.
I felt bad for my mother. I mean, like, now I look back, I'm like, damn, my poor mama's like, my mama's always been like the most humble, the most peaceful, loving woman. You mean? Like,
Right.
she's the one that taught me so much how to be a good person.
Right.
She was an example of a good person.
You know, that's crazy that you say that. Let's talk about that for a second. You know, most of the things that like our love when we're young, when somebody pours like purity on you, that stays with you. Like I know me because I was the same. My brothers were gang members. You know, my mom. I only had one sister. I still have my sister, but me and my brothers were all gang members. But I remember like when the shit would hit, like when the shit would hit the fan, and like we were in the middle of some, you know,
Yeah.
that part of my mom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It had me a lot of times like I shouldn't be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to be here. You know what I'm saying? But it's because our environment, all the fucking neighbors, everyone at school, everyone you know is part of the same shit. You know what I mean? So I remember like, and till this day, everything my mom sprinkled on me, dog, since I was a kid, had always stayed with me. Like you said, the goodness, the purity, you know, being a good person, you know, helping a person, like being a humanitarian, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your mom was a humanitarian. My mom was a humanitarian. But like we get fucking caught up in the cycle of madness.
We became product of our environment.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It was survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you grow up in an environment like we did,
Of
we know what
course.
it's like. It's survival of the fittest. Like if you can't be weak-minded.
And
And if you are, you can't show
you
it.
can't show it.
Hell nah.
You can't show it. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
How many times I remember me, I had to put up I was like, my heart was racing, you know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna go over here, we're gonna park, we're all gonna get off with M1s. It's fucking 2:00 in the afternoon, and we're gonna start dumping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
and you had no choice.
You had no choice.
You had no choice. And like, I mean, a lot of shit, I mean, of course it was a thrill and it was fun, but you know, I'm like, yeah, there was moments where I'm like, fuck, man.
You know what, too? And I always say this, dog. It was bad leadership on the older homies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Dog, like, how is a 30-year-old going to teach a 15-year-old how to load up a M1?
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
No one ever gave me a book. No one ever gave me zero. It was like, look, shoot first and ask questions later.
Hey, but but growing up like that, like growing up in an environment like that, like you idolize those people.
Yeah,
That's
remember,
the reality.
we're still young.
Yeah.
We're still semi-unconscious.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're in the middle of the gang stuff. You're in and out of jail. Your brothers are in and out of jail. Your sisters are in and out of jail. Well, tell me was there ever a moment that came for you where you were like, I'm good on this?
My son, I had my son at 17. I think that, I mean, I didn't get it right away, obviously, right? I still fucked around for a couple more years, you know what I mean? But like, I think my son is what opened my eyes. Like having my son, I was like, man, maybe this lifestyle ain't for me. Like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison or die and leave this little. You
started navigating towards.
Yeah, I started slowly. You mean like I started slowly looking outside the box, because you know when you live in that environment, all you see, you got tunnel vision.
Yeah.
All you see is that.
Yeah.
Even down to like the way you eat,
Everything.
your talk, your behavior, everything is.
It's robotic.
Like, yeah, like I used to be ghetto as fuck. I'd say foo and homie and
dog
and dog and every other sentence. You mean like it's crazy. Like growing up in that environment, like it's just tunnel vision. That's all
American Me was fucking.
Yeah, American.
Yes, you know what I'm saying?
Miss Society,
Boulevard Nights, Duke of Earl.
All you know is that, and you start seeing outside the box, and you start looking outside you start looking at the world outside of that environment, and I think that's what opened up my eyes a lot more, because I had my little guy, and that's what changed. I think that's what really opened up my eyes. I'm like,
So you're 17. So what do you do? Get a job?
I yeah, I got his mom pregnant, and I got locked up like a month after.
Locked up?
Yeah,
You went to jail
I went to Camp Barrett
when she was pregnant.
when she was pregnant.
So the whole pregnancy you were in jail.
The most of it.
What'd you do? 8 months?
Like I was out right before she turned 8 months. I got out.
Damn.
So I didn't get to experience none of that the first. I mean,
But you were there when he was born.
yeah, but I was there when he was born, and watching him be born.
That was life
That
changing.
was life changing experience.
Yeah,
I fainted.
Oh, wow,
I
yeah.
fainted for like a second, but I fainted. But it was a life changing experience, and like I said, that's opened up my eyes. And he was like, we joke around about it. He's like, Dad, I saved your life, but in reality, he did.
Yeah, sometimes my daughter posts that, Angelina,
Yeah,
because I'll tell her randomly, like, hey, you saved my life.
yeah.
I always tell her that. She saved my life.
I tell my son the same story. I'm like, you saved my life. Like, you are the reason why I'm here as a man today, because I mean, you opened up my eyes. I didn't get it right away. Obviously, I was still fucking my life off until like right before I turned 19, or I think I was like 19 already.
So for
Just turned
like
19.
2 more years after he was
Like
born,
a year and a half more.
you were
yeah.
still in the.
I was still. I couldn't make my mind up. You mean like I was like, man, I know I need to do this.
Just programming, dog.
Yeah,
It's just
but
program.
It was
man.
reprogramming.
Yeah, that's it.
So I had to go I had to go through that little phase of like, yeah.
Did you go through the phase where, like, when you started navigating the way, the homies are like, why don't you come around no more?
Yeah, I
course.
went through all that shit. You know what song I listened to? That song, The Streets.
My song.
I remember I would bump their song. I'm like, damn, because I was struggling.
Yeah.
I still wanted to be in the streets, but I knew that.
Did you hear the message in that song?
Yeah.
Though? Like, the message was like, nah, we got to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, during around that time was like my transformation.
Mm-hmm.
My sobriety, you know, that was like when I got my first deal with like Universal as an independent artist. And like, that's when like I was able to experience like the more you grow, the more your growth gives to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, I remember before that, I would say, one day I'm gonna be on the radio. One day I'm gonna have a big ass crib. I'm gonna have a brand new car. I'm gonna travel and I'm gonna do shows. And boom, it all happened.
Yeah.
I was all over the country, you know what I mean? But again, that generational trauma, it would show up wherever I went.
Fuck yeah, it does.
No matter what I did, dog, because of the programming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to literally reprogram yourself. Like you said, yeah, we do interviews and I still be like talking, you know,
Yeah.
American me.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, but I always had like this, I don't know if it's a desire, but I always had like this curiosity about a higher consciousness. You know, I told you this. I would have like a little book, a little thesaurus, and I'd be like, instead of saying like, there's a dude that's wanted by the police and he's tired, I'd be like, it's a fugitive on the run and he's exhausted.
Yeah.
So when Once in a Decade came out, like, bro, I had read thesauruses, I knew every word. So that lyrical, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There wasn't another album like that.
Yeah.
But
Now-
it was easy for me to be able to see around and just put it on paper really creatively, you know? And that opened up another dimension for me. When did you start getting, okay, so you're navigating the way, you're a father now, you're working, you want to do better. When did music kick in?
Music was always there. I used to always write. I used to write poetry. I think I shared that with you before. I used to write poetry, even in juvenile hall. I would write. I mean, there were rhymes. But
You still have them?
I didn't call them rhymes or I didn't call them raps. I call them poetry. So
Right.
I would just write, and they were just like my thoughts and shit that I was in, shit that I was going through or shit that I've been through, and that's how I would write. And it was something that was always in my mind, on my mind. Like I always wanted to rap, but I just didn't have time for it. To be honest, like I was navigating trying to navigate through being a father, trying to get away from that lifestyle I've always known, and just trying to be a different person, trying
Right.
to transform myself. So I kind of put everything on the back burner. It wasn't until I was in my late 20s.
Where you like pursued it?
Yeah, where I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna write some raps. And
I'm gonna get some beats.
I'm gonna get some beats, record some beats.
Find a studio.
Yeah, find a studio.
Yeah,
And luckily I knew Blaze. I knew a few people.
Shout out to Blaze.
Yeah, shout out to my boy, man. He's
That's a
yeah,
good dude right there.
Yeah, it is a really good dude. And he's like, yeah, I got you. Let's get in the studio. Bought some beats, and dropped that track Elevated, and then a few more followers.
That was your first track?
That was my first single that I dropped.
That was good.
Yeah, and I have a few features.
I remember when I saw you, I'm like, who's this dude?
Yeah.
The raspy voice,
Yeah.
you know, that's it.
You know what? And I did it because I've always loved it. So I wanted to have fun with it. I mean, so I just and I pursued that. But I mean, that's something that was more like something that I was fulfilling something that I always wanted. I mean, it was like I was checking off.
Was it therapeutic for you?
It was.
Because it's therapeutic for me.
It is. It was. I still got a few raps and a few rhymes that I still have never dropped that I still want to. And these are more on a personal level.
Yeah, that's the real music.
Yeah.
You know, when people tell me things like, dog, your album No Condolences is a classic. I'm like, how is it a classic? It's a bunch of nonsense. You know, legend, classic.
The 13 School.
Oh my God, bro. It's just a bunch of vomit. You know what I'm saying? I don't like those albums, bro. Okay, but hold on. Let's go back. So you're a dad. You have your baby. You're navigating away. When do you dip into your journey where you want more? Because I'm sure you experienced a time that you were surrounded by people, but you felt alone.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's something I've always struggled with that. I think as I got older, I was so focused on just working, providing for my kids. I had my daughter like 3 years after my son. So
At 20.
I'm like 20. No, about 21. About to be 21. And I got my kid's mom pregnant with my daughter, and that's when it really I'll call oh, now I'm gonna have 2 kids. I really gotta do something. At that time I was still selling weed, working part-time jobs. I was still low-key kind of bumming it. I mean,
Right.
I was
your
still,
sandals.
I mean, I wasn't hanging out on the streets no more. I wasn't out there doing stupid shit. But
You still lived in the neighborhood?
no, by then
moved out?
I moved away. But I was still, that mentality fully hadn't left yet. So, so I was still struggling there, but I knew that I wanted different. I've always been like that. I've always thought,
Engaging in your journey.
yeah. So that happened. Okay, so I had my daughter. Well, eventually we had my daughter, and that's what really changed me. That's when I really started thinking okay.
That's when you turned it up.
Yeah, I stopped smoking cigarettes. I've always drank here and there, but I've never been much of a drinker. But that's when I really started analyzing things in my life. Okay, what do I need to do to better myself in my life? I started working harder. I started keeping jobs, and then it went from that to I ended up having the same job for like 5 years, and I worked my ass off. It wasn't the best fucking job. It wasn't.
Who cares?
The pay sucked, but
you were
but
working.
it was a good booster for me because it taught me a lot of fundamental things when it came to how to work with people, how to
Socialize.
how to socialize, how to become more more professional.
Right.
Learning how to speak. I was a lead.
You weren't. Yeah.
Production line.
You weren't with the homies talking. You were with society.
Yeah. For example, I was a lead for a production line. So shit started changing, and we got our first apartment. So that was to me that was a milestone because we've always lived with people. I always lived with people. I always lived on my mom's couch.
Right.
Even up to before I had my second daughter, I was still bouncing back and forth. I wasn't fully living with my kid's mom.
Right.
I would still go back to my mom's and lay on the couch for a couple of days.
Right.
And go to work from there.
Right.
And after that, obviously, right, I got my own place with my kids and their mom at the time when we were still together, and that's when shit started changing. That's when I had to be. I knew I had to be responsible, and there was no room for slacking off.
Right.
I knew I couldn't take days off, and I had to go to work every day. I had to get up. I knew I had to get up, and that's when things started changing. Obviously, I mean, this is like my mid-20s. I'm already pushing into my mid-20s.
And did you have any other kids?
Yeah, I had one more son.
How many years later?
Oh, that one, he came 6 years after my daughter. 6 years
So
after.
there's like 4 or 5 years gap in between them.
Yeah,
In your kids.
yeah. Between my youngest and my oldest, there's 10 years.
And how's your relationship with your kids and your parents?
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
grandparents love them.
yeah. My dad too.
Yeah, your dad's more open.
I trip out. Like my dad is.
It's different.
It's different. Like I have pictures and I'm like, damn, I trip out because I'm like, man, dude, like I mean, it's just he loves my kids.
And how does that make you feel? Like to see your dad open
It
up.
feels good. That's why That's why we take pictures of it because I want my kids to see that one day when he's not here.
Yeah.
He's no longer here.
Right.
See, I mean, you know, it wasn't the best for me growing up, but at least he's tried with my kids.
Right. Right. So at what point did you say, you know what, I'm gonna pick up a book, or you know what, I'm gonna, move this way instead of being in a robotic cycle? When did you like actually say, I'm going to engage in actually changing my life internally?
Internally, to dig real deep, I've always struggled with my mental health. And there's something that I always ignored. I knew it was there, but like you don't fully acknowledge it, or you try to
You don't know
ignore-
how.
You try to you don't
You
know
don't
how,
know how.
the lack
There's
of
no
the lack of
tools.
education, the
Yeah,
lack of
no
knowledge.
tools.
You
No
don't.
one gave us tools.
Yeah, so I knew I was there. I mean, I have a bunch of trauma as a child, so and then just growing up in the environment, the shit that I've seen. I mean, the deaths that I've experienced, the amount of violence I've witnessed. With my own eyes, that shit traumatizes you, right?
Yeah.
I was shooting a video. I remember I invited you. Remember? I
Yeah.
was shooting a video for the Come Test Me.
Oh yeah.
And my sister got shot at that video shoot. Remember?
Yeah.
And that was a turning point. After that shit happened, like it just like something in my brain just switched off. I started having panic attacks every night. I was waking up in the middle of the night.
Before that, your anxiety wasn't as
It's always been there.
You were having anxiety attacks before that?
I was having the anxiety attack before that, but it wasn't as common, right? Like
I remember a wake up for you when that happened.
Yeah.
I remember you're like, man, like what the fuck? Like I can't, How did your family and your kids and your baby's mom all react to that? Did that put a barrier between them believing you can be an artist and not have to deal with that type of stuff?
Oh, it definitely brought up a lot of questions. I mean, if even if they weren't saying it directly to me, there was a lot of doubt after that. It's like, should you really be doing that?
Right.
Is it safe?
Right.
Maybe you should like really start thinking about what you're doing, because it was very significant. My sister was shot.
Yeah.
She was shot right in front of me. So it was a huge turning point. And so when that happened, I noticed like something just changed in me. And my kid's mom, we're still together at the time, so we're living together, and she's seen it. She was like, something just. I had just lost prior to that a year and a half. A year prior to that, I had just lost one of my nieces. Well, I known him my whole life. He grew up in the same neighborhood. I called him my nephew. He was dating my niece and had a kid with my niece.
Right.
But I knew the kid his whole life. I grew up with his family, and he was shot and killed
In the neighborhood.
in June of 2017, but just a few months prior, I had just lost a close friend of mine. He was like a brother to me. He got killed in TJ, so I was already dealing with that. I mean, I'm still healing from that, and then this shit happened. So when that happened, it just
too close.
It was just too much. Like my brain, like just switched.
So what did you do different after that?
At first, I didn't know how to navigate to what I was going through, because I was experiencing, like, I'm talking about waking up in the middle of the night, sweating, freaking out, feeling like I was dying, like me, and I didn't know what was going on with me. I didn't know that I was experiencing panic attacks.
Right.
I didn't know that I was having symptoms of PTSD. I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know. I didn't get diagnosed until like maybe like a month or so later.
And when you got diagnosed, did you identify more with what was happening with you?
Yeah, and it was a wake up call. It's like I need to do something about this, before I lose my mind. Because I didn't know the knowledge. I didn't have the knowledge I have now, the education I have now. But at that time, when they told me that I had PTSD, I was freaking out. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my mind.
So you went to go talk to a
Yeah,
psychologist?
yeah. I was seeing a psychologist. I started seeing a therapist regularly.
And that's me too.
Yeah,
I think more men that come from like our men period. Because
yeah,
like you said, bro, the ego.
yeah,
Oh, I'm not gonna go fucking talk to nobody. Like, what I'm oh yeah, that's good for you.
yeah,
I mean, it's helped me in my life, you know what I mean? Being able to identify with like I said, a lot of our childhood shows up in our adulthood, being able to identify with compassion and understanding and just the what it takes to actually evolve,
yeah,
to actually grow. So you got put in a situation where you feel, I assume that you were forced, like,
yeah,
what, like I'm not gonna do this shit no more.
yeah. Like I had to really I had to really
Dig deep.
dig deep and address what was wrong with me. And obviously, like because of my trauma and the shit that I was ignoring, I started realizing like, damn, all these problems that I brought upon my life, all the problems that I inflicted on my kids, on my family, my kids, mom, and just I mean, it was a lot of it was because of my trauma, shit that I wasn't addressing.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I need to handle this. Start reading books. Um, I wrote I read the Four Agreements,
I remember when you hit me.
the Untethered Soul,
Yeah.
and I started just reading stuff online, listening more, listening to like Les Brown, Inky Johnson, Eric Thomas. I started just soaking up like good positive knowledge, and yeah, I think that's when I really started like really digging deep. I got really like focused into my fitness, into just really taking care of my mental health.
Right.
It became a priority above everything else.
Right.
Like I don't give a shit about anything else. I don't care about this rap shit. I don't care about nothing.
Your personal freedom was more important.
My personal freedom was more important. Like me addressing my mental health was more important.
Absolutely.
And I started going on the journey, and I've been on that journey ever since. Yeah, I've had some setbacks.
We all have.
Yeah,
We all have.
Yeah, I went through some shit. 2021 was a tough year for me. I had a complete meltdown. I think it was just something that just dragged on from 2020, and it just kind of spilled into 2021, and that beginning of that year, I just had a meltdown, complete meltdown.
Did you ever feel? Because I know I did. That you're putting in the work, or you feel you're putting in the work, and nothing's changing,
Yeah,
and then you're like, man, you start feeling robotic again, and you regress. Did you ever feel like that?
you felt no. I think more so with me is that I neglected it. Like I felt like I'm good now.
The
I'm
honeymoon.
good. Yeah,
I'm good.
I'm
straight.
good now. I'm straight now. Like I've taken care of my mental health. I don't need counseling no more.
Right.
So I took a little break from counseling, and I had to I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Because the whole pandemic hit, being stuck at home, not socializing with people, not being able to go to the gym, not being able there was a lot of contributing factors that just was a recipe for disaster.
I think COVID put a lot of things into perspective for the world. Marriages, your health, your mental health, your job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that were married wouldn't see. They wake up, they go their different ways. You know what I'm saying? Now you're stuck with that person. Like, damn, I don't really think I really like this person.
Yeah.
They're like, oh shit, I gained all this weight. Or, oh damn, I don't like my job. You know what I mean? And for me, one thing that I've learned just personally is being alone, to me, was probably the greatest thing for me. Because a lot of people confuse being alone with being lonely. I look at it like solitude.
Yeah.
Like when you're
like
alone,
that,
yeah. When you feel lonely, you make decisions that destroy you. When you're in solitude, you actually learn how to grow, because our deepest, root and foundation is our thinking. I was reading the other day, dude said, when you think, then you make decisions, right?
Yeah.
And then the decisions, you show the results. And based on those results, it shows the quality of your life, right? So think about it. We're drinking, we get fucked up, right? We drink alcohol. We make decisions based on being drunk, right? then it shows, right? And it's
Yeah.
disaster after disaster after disaster. We sober up and we do it again. And then we do it again. So it's like, I'm going to drink so I cannot feel this way. And then we create absolutely more problems while being that way. You go to the bar, you meet other people that feel just like you, and they're your best friends until you're sober.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the pandemic, you feel put you in a worse space.
It did. It really it brought the demons back. I mean,
They say
how-
we have to deal with our demons or our demons will deal with us.
yeah, and that's what happened. Like and at that time it was just it got the best of me.
So tell me about that. What happened and what did you do to be able to be victorious from that?
To be honest, I contemplated committing suicide.
Right.
I almost acted on it, and I think at that moment is when I said, you know what, I thought of my kids and I thought of my little guy, and I said, man, I can't leave those kids.
Right.
If I do this shit, if I go through with it, I'm gonna ruin their fucking lives, and I know I'm better than this.
Right.
And like you mentioned, solitude. I had those. That's one thing I struggled with. I couldn't I couldn't separate solitude from loneliness. Like I didn't understand that shit.
Right.
I felt lonely as fuck because
Even if you were surrounded by
even
people.
I was surrounded, like we mentioned earlier, I dealt with that shit my whole life. I could be in a room full of people, and I always felt like I was alone because maybe just the way I thought, shit that I was dealing with, shit that was always going through my head, right? So yeah, 2021, that year finished, 2021 came, and shit was starting to change, but at that point, all my demons came back, and I just couldn't do it, and I almost committed suicide, and that was like the biggest wake up call for me, because it almost, like I said, obviously I almost committed suicide, almost cost me my life, almost cost me my job. It was straining a lot of relationships, especially with my kids, because I couldn't even function as a father.
Right.
Like I was sitting in my room or on the couch.
And it was all just your internal space.
It was all just internally what I was dealing with. There was nothing around, nobody that caused it. It was just shit that I couldn't handle.
You couldn't untether from it.
I couldn't deal with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I checked myself into treatment.
Good.
I talked to my company, my job, and they're like, they were huge, really supportive. They're like, do it. My boss was like, do it. I know you've been struggling, just do it. I talked to my mom. I broke down to my mom on the phone, and she was like, son, you're my strongest kid. I've never heard you cry. I knew something was wrong with you. Because every time I call you, I could tell you don't even want to talk to me. She would call me, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, Mom. I would find any reason to just hang up the phone because I just didn't want her. I didn't want to talk to nobody, and I didn't want her to hear that.
You don't want to project how you were feeling on them.
Yeah, and I didn't want her to hear it in my voice what I was fucking going through. So she knew. When I broke down to her, she was like, I knew it. I knew something was wrong with you. And I told her, so I expressed to her what I wanted to do, and she was like, do it, mijo. With full support, do it, mijo.
Dope.
Do what you need to do. Talk to my boss, she's like, do it. I looked up the places, found a good treatment place right here in Orange County. Checked myself in, left for a month.
How did it, and tell me about it. How was that experience?
It was a life changer because I got to learn how to live in solitude.
Right.
I was forced to live. I mean, I was forced to face all my demons with no distractions around me. I couldn't do it at home.
Right.
Everything's there. I mean, my kids are not a distraction, but I mean,
yeah, it has nothing to do with that.
Nah,
yeah.
It's just I couldn't do it on my own. So going to that place really just changed my perspective on a lot of things. That whatever I was going through, nobody was gonna fix it.
How were you able to take that and take it with you when you got out?
I had what I learned there.
Yeah, what you learned, because remember, like one of the biggest things that I've learned is we can read books, we could be around company, we can get information. You know, a lot of the things that we feel, a lot of things that we believe, it's data. It's registered. So the only thing that's a fact is that we register, but not that what we register is a fact, right?
Yeah.
So if we don't implement the stuff, we don't get to experience it. And like you said, when I was going through my alcoholism and I'd be sober for a couple of months, I'd be like, I'm good now,
Yeah.
and then in 1 second I was right back. So it was really easy to just return to darkness. So when you were in that month of solitude and you got all this information and you were surrounded by people that wanted to teach you or that taught you the difference between living and existing,
Mhm.
when you walked out of there, because dog, it's maintenance every day.
Yeah. Nah,
You got to
yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
When you walked out of there, were there certain things that you did that kept you aligned?
Yeah. One thing was affirmation every morning. I still do it to this day. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but
No, it's not cheesy.
every morning when I wake up, I tell myself how great I am.
Good.
I remind myself. I mean, like, you're a great father and you work hard. Look, me, I have my own place. I have my own apartment. I drive a brand new car, and I remind myself of what I have. I have my health. My mental health is in check. I have my own place. I got my kids. They're healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, like I do everything I need to do to provide for my kids.
I am.
Those little small affirmations, they help me get through my day, and I learned that in there, and just learning that I'm not alone in this,
Right.
and that your mental health is not it's not temporary. It's something that it's a journey.
Yeah.
It becomes
It's a journey with no destination.
with no destination. Like, you have to nurture it
Every single day, like your car, like your house,
Yep.
like everything else. Let me say something, Doc. I've known you for a little while, and I want to tell you how much I admire your courage. You've always been courageous, dog. One of the things that you've always told me was that, you don't really feel comfortable talking to other people, and that you've always felt comfortable, when we speak, and I want to applaud you, dog. I want to applaud you in your growth. And I see you happy and I see you smiling and I see you present. I've no matter what you were going through, dog, I've always seen you be a good father. I see you get up and go to work, and those are the things, bro, that, one of the things that I've told you is, dog, the rap shit is last. Let's build as people. Remember I used to tell you that?
Mhm.
And we were able to click like that because we come from the same pain.
Mhm.
We come from the same pain. We come from the same cloth. We come from the same environment. So I just want to let you know that I'm really proud of you, bro.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to speak up about, contemplating suicide, and for you to be able to be here and, give other people hope, bro, that, it's worth it to live.
Yeah.
It's worth it to live, bro.
And I remember when I first opened up to you about it, like, you were the only go to person, and like, you were the only person that I could go to, and now, like, I'm not afraid to talk about it at all.
That's beautiful, bro.
Like, I've become an advocate
That's
to mental
beautiful.
health, men's mental health specifically,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we
need that.
We deal with a lot of shit in this world that we bottle up,
hmm
and
Like you said, though, not to take away from other cultures or other, climates of the world, but like in our culture, in my opinion, you know, we get tormented and rewarded at the same time. I'll give you an example. You know, they'll make soup for us, right? Eat that. Eat that right now. There's people starving. You better eat that or I'm gonna whoop your ass. You eat it. Oh, you're such a good boy. So in a minute, in 3 minutes, you were disrespected and praised.
yeah,
You're fucking confused. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you're taught. So then, oh well, that felt good. So then you start pleasing. Let me try to please you, so I could get rewarded and I can get validated. So then we build an emotional appetite and we take that everywhere we go, dog.
yeah,
We have that appetite, you know? So, like me and you growing up in a neighborhood, bro, what was it always? You deal with a problem with violence.
yeah. I think that's how we end up with dependency issues.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely, bro. But, you being on the journey, me being on the journey, I think it's great that we're here and we can encourage other people to get on the journey, especially people that look like us. When I was talking to you about the festival the other day, like, that's important to me because it's in the middle of the inner city. It's in the middle of Logan Heights.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I want to see it. Shelltown, Lomas, you know what I'm saying? Chula Vista National City, Osai, Pozole, Sherman. I want all of us to be under the same umbrella, experiencing the exact same thing, because in the end, we're all the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We gain nothing from destroying. We gain everything from building.
Yeah.
You know, so to see you, with your chest out, on the mental health, journey is beautiful to me. And I'm sure that you're inspiring other people in your neighborhood and other people that you grew up with, because 99.9 that is coming out of our mouth is
Yeah.
growth.
And I started in my own family because, I mean, I seen that in my own family that we didn't talk about a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all my siblings, all of us, we grew up through the same shit. We experienced the same shit.
Yeah.
We grew up in the same household. So a lot of our experience
So they're the same.
they're the same. But we never talked about it. And I got a lot of people to open up. Like my own siblings said open up about their issues and and the shit that they were dealing with. And then I started talking to my coworkers and they turned out to and what I seen after this, when I started opening up, right, about my mental health and telling my story about my journey and just telling people about the shit that I go through, I started learning that a lot more men in all walks of life deal with the same shit.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with two coworkers the other day, and I'm like, it's crazy because one guy, and I told him like, I was like, no offense, bro, but like, I was talking to you, and I'm like, you look like a square. He's actually a friend of mine. My coworker, he's a white guy, blonde hair, blue eyes, white guy, and there's me, the guy that looks like a tough guy, tattoos, tough exterior, but in reality,
You're all going through the same thing.
we all go through the same shit.
Yeah.
We all had daddy issues.
Yeah.
And we all had mental health. And we all dealt with some sort of mental health.
And the moment that you guys started speaking about it, you all felt a lot safer, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I always say, bro, that I've learned, being in the game and just being on my journey, being able to talk to people, is people always perform better, bro, when you feel safe.
Yeah.
When you don't have to put on the mask. Because everyone has a mask. When you don't have to wear the mask and you can take the mask off and you can just be you, that's when you perform the best. So for people to see you, like you said, tough exterior, you come from the hood, people know that, people know you been in some shit, but when they get to know you, everything changes.
Yeah.
Like I'm about to go to KUSI in a couple of weeks and talk about the festival. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if I've been able to experience anything, is that sometimes when people look at me, it's one thing. The moment I start talking, everything changes.
Yeah. And I get that all the time. To this day, I still get that at work, in the gym, wherever I'm at. People, they say I'm not approachable. They say, man, when I first met you, when I first seen you, you didn't seem approachable.
Right.
Because I'm very straight faced and kind of just quiet to myself. Unless you talk to me, I'm a very quiet person.
Right.
And they're like, man, after I started talking to you, you're completely different. Like it's like, yeah, they never judge a book by its cover, because you can learn a lot from people that you least expect from.
You know what I posted the other day? Excuse me. So one time I was traveling. I was going to New Mexico, I believe. And on the way to New Mexico, I saw the houses, right? And it's like the traditional roof, like this, right? And then the house is in the middle. So if you grab a book and you open it in the middle, it looks exactly the same. It looks like a roof, right? So the story is inside, right? So I always wonder, like, there's the roof, there's the book, what's the story, right? So even now, like where I'm at in my life, it's important to me to make sure that I take care of that story and that story is authentic and that story really is me, not because of what someone else thinks, but because of my experience and my journey and my growth and my involvement in the way that I feel about it. Because if I learned anything in my life, is that the little things are really the big things. You know what I'm saying? The things that seem complex are really simple. When we are in the opposite circumstance mentally, the things that are meaningless are meaningful, and the things that are meaningful are meaningless. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now that I'm here, like I have the same routine every day, no matter where I'm at. I wake up, I take a shower, I read, I train, I eat, and then I go about my day. So when I start my day, I already fed my mind, my body, and my spirit. And that works for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Like we got to have some type of routine that keeps us aligned. It's like the maintenance in the car.
Yeah.
Like, dog, if the check engine light till the car comes, motherfuckers go to the auto shop because they want to keep going in their car. But if our internal check engine light comes on, you ignore it till you break down.
Yeah. That's always a problem.
Yeah.
A lot of us.
So let me ask you this, dog. What would you say to somebody right now that is going through a tough time, a dark time, that is contemplating not being here anymore? What would you advise them to do and give them hope that there is more than what they're feeling right now?
Talk to someone. I mean, like, please talk to someone. Like, if it's a man, like, don't feel like no one's gonna listen to you. You don't need to be a macho man. You don't need to feel like you're just too tough or too brave to not show your vulnerabilities. Like, talk about it.
Right.
Whoever you may feel comfortable with, if it's a coworker or a family member, doesn't matter. Talk to someone. Vent that shit out. Make an appointment to see a therapist. Like, whatever you need to do, talk to someone. Most importantly, I think that's like always the start to addressing something that's internal.
You said earlier that there was a time in your life where you felt you couldn't talk to no one, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is having that battle and you feel that they feel confined to their thoughts and sometimes speaking up, they have anxiety on that, I think we should encourage people that if they talk to somebody and they don't go anywhere, that they should continue to talk to somebody and not feel shut down and not feel repressed and not feel that there is no hope, because sometimes those things are tests too.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a big misconception, like me, as I've been going on in my life, when it comes to my children and the things that are most important, like it's one thing being a secret and it's another thing being sacred. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to hold the things that are sacred to you close to your heart, because that's how we preserve them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that just reminded me of something too that I should touch on. I had this conversation with someone the other day, and like now for myself, like back then I didn't know how to limit my access to people. How to limit people's access to me. I allowed a lot of negativity in my life, whether it was family, friends, acquaintances, or co-worker, whatever it was, but I allowed a lot of that negativity around me. And one thing I've learned in these last couple of years is cutting that shit out, is limiting my access, is not allowing people.
Making yourself available to it.
Not making myself available to people. It's like I don't care. I don't care if I have history with you.
Like if that's what you're bringing here,
I got homies
like I'm good on you.
I got homies that I love to death.
That don't stop. That are with the same shit.
But they don't stop. They're still with the same shit. So I limited my access. I don't allow them in my bubble, because
that's like
shit,
yeah,
that shit affects me.
Well, dog, that's like if this bottle is our spirit and we allow someone to put rubbing alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Why would we do that?
Yeah.
Because we end up drinking it and it ends up fucking up our spirit. And that is important because that's our environment. I'm sure you have very little friends.
Yeah, very little friends.
Right? Friends. Not acquaintances, like friends.
Yeah. I don't have really any friends.
Yeah.
I have some friends, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Some people that are dear to me and that I do allow them in my personal space, but it's very few.
I call it the galaxy.
It's not even. I can't. Yeah, it's not even in
the galaxy, dog. It's your galaxy.
Yeah.
If you go to if an astronaut
sees, I call it my safe space.
Dog, look at it like this: if an astronaut sees another astronaut, he knows what it took to get there.
Yeah.
Right. It could be a Russian astronaut. It could be a Brazilian astronaut, an American astronaut, a Mexican astronaut. None of that matters because they all know what they went through to get to that space. Yeah. Right. And that's how I see it, dog. And it's very easy for me to be able to dictate who and what and why.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
It's like people. I don't mind helping people because I have family members. I got a little cousin that will come to me periodically and for help, and I love being able to help her and guiding her through her journey. I'm sorry to say a little, but like guiding her through her journey when she falls off and she feels she feels
well,
like
that's our job.
she feels a little lost, right? But that's different from like people that come to me and they want to vent about their horrible day they had with their boss or their relationship problems. Like I'm like, hey, respectfully, I don't want to hear that shit.
You know,
Like keep that over there because you're affecting
my space,
my safe space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I limited myself to who I allow.
Today, someone texted me like, "Hey, what are you up to?" I said, "I'm just running around taking care of things." You know what they said? He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I know it sucks." I said, "Who said it sucks? I never said it sucks.
Yeah.
I'm driving around. I'm breathing. I'm alive. I have a fucking pulse. I have a house. I have a car. Got money in the bank. I got things lined up. Like I enjoyed doing that. But to some people, being responsible sucks."
It's just the perception.
That's insane.
It's the perception and negative mindset they have.
Yeah.
I mean, like you gotta count every day. Every day is a blessing because I mean, like you just.
Well, but again, Don, like that's the difference between being able to wake up and being able to appreciate that you woke up. You know, we stay in the ruminated state when we're not like that. You know, we wake up and we feel the same shit that we felt the day before. And it's not even the thoughts, it's the story attached to the thought that keeps you there.
Yeah, and to highlight like what the power of really being in tune with yourself and working on your mental health and really addressing it and nurturing it and taking care of it is I lost my little brother. I mean, blood couldn't make us any closer. He was my little brother.
Right.
And I lost him almost a year ago. Right. January 18th, he passed away. And I went and seen you like a couple weeks after that.
Yeah, we had dinner, yeah.
And I've been heartbroken ever since. I broke down this morning.
Yeah, of course.
I'm hurt. I posted him because I was thinking of him and I started crying and I'm heartbroken.
Of course.
I mean, that was one of the hardest loss I ever had in my life. I don't think I've ever experienced pain losing him. Like,
here's the thing. You're experiencing the magnitude of that pain now, and it feels different because you're different.
Yeah.
Because you're different now.
But I'm able, because of where I'm at in my mental space, that I'm able to handle it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what growth is about.
I didn't allow myself to get into a dark space.
Well, not only are you able to handle it, but you're able to process it. Mm-hmm. When we can't process our feelings and our thoughts, we got blockage.
Yeah.
When you have blockage, dog, ain't nothing happening.
I wouldn't cry.
Yeah, it was.
And it's one thing that a lot of people tell me, like I never show my emotions, never. Now I cry whenever I need to.
Yeah.
I tell my boys the same shit.
Yeah.
Cry when you need to, because that's a
release.
It's a release.
It's a release. A healthy release.
And it's so fucking good. Like cry in your car. You mean cry in your room by yourself, cry in the bathroom, wherever you need to do, wherever you need to do it. If you don't want to see anybody to see it, but do it. And that being able to allow myself to cry and feel vulnerable, even when I'm by myself, because a lot of time I wouldn't do that shit. Yeah. Even when I was alone in the room, I felt like I couldn't do it.
I need to have that wall.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tough.
Yeah, I'm tough.
I'm a tough guy. But nah, bro.
That's the ego, bro.
Yeah,
the ego is an assassin, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing that I learned that's sounds simple, but it's very powerful is if someone was to ask you right now, what is the greatest moment of your life? You know what it is? Right now. Mm-hmm. Right now, dog.
Being present.
Being present. Mm-hmm. We get psychologically confined to the past or to the future, mm-hmm. and we abandon the present. And you know, dog, when you're in the present, you're free. You are free, bro. And the only thing that robs us of the present is our thought process. Mm-hmm. Our stories, our ideas, our desire, our want, That. You know what I'm saying? But underneath all that, the present is always the present. The present doesn't change, bro. It always is. So to see you present makes me happy, dog. You know, when we talk, one time I was looking, I'm like, God damn, I looked at our DMs. We had like 100 voice messages back then.
Yeah.
We were going back and forth.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I think I was outside CBS for like an hour, dog. You know, we were going back and forth. But, you know, man, I just, you know, dog, like, I love you, bro. I love you. I'm super proud of you, bro. And, you know, I'm happy you're starting your own stuff, your podcast.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
That's going to be coming this coming year. I'm still working on gathering all the equipment, and then I'm trying to learn how I'm gonna navigate through this.
You'll figure that out easy.
Yeah, I'm watching videos on YouTube. I'm trying to read up on things. I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
You're doing the diligence.
Because I want to do this from the ground up on myself.
That's beautiful.
And I really want to, like I said, I want to become an advocate to a lot of this.
You are.
I am an advocate.
You are an advocate
to a lot of this shit that goes on, and it has to start with me.
That's right.
I feel like I've always had the gift of gabble, and I've always been huge on speaking up. Like I'm not afraid, but I never use those things for the good, right?
Yeah.
My mom always told me I've always had a big ass mouth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she'd always tell me, you never know how to shut up. You mean? But because I was always speaking up on arguments between my siblings. I would see them arguing. I'll always be like one, call them out.
Right.
You know, whatever it was, but I always had a big ass mouth, right? Now I'm learning how to use it for the good.
Well, you know, I read a term the other day about being a voice for the voiceless, right? And I thought about it. I'm like, nah, I don't like that term because the voiceless do have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just need to learn how to activate it.
Yeah.
There is no voiceless people. Everyone has a voice. We just have to help people activate that voice and be able to feel comfortable in a safe space where they can actually speak what they feel, you know? And I think it's beautiful what you're doing, dog. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that you came here and that you spoke on it.
Yeah, bro.
You wanna give anybody some shout outs? You wanna say anything to anyone else?
I want to give you a shout out, bro. You know what, bro? Like, you've been a huge inspiration for me, in a lot of ways. I've told you this before. I used to listen to your music when I was a youngster, and I used to gangbang to that shit. I mean, I used to get pumped up, and then I met you, and I've watched you through your journey.
Yeah.
You're a little heavier in size, and I've literally watched you transform.
Yeah.
And that shit has been inspirational to me. Like, watching you, and at that same moment, you never neglected giving me guidance.
Right.
Even through your journey, you never neglected giving me guidance. You were always there, and that's one thing I appreciate you most from, bro. Like you don't. Like, you mean you already know. We've had plenty of private conversations.
Yeah.
You know.
I love you,
You're
bro.
my big bro,
man.
And
And I love you, bro. And that's what we're here to do, bro. Like,
yeah.
We have to keep that, you know, and I appreciate the kind words. Thank you, man. But
yeah,
that we're here to serve. We're here to serve, dog. Like, that's the real gift, bro. The real gift is giving, not receiving. Yeah. You know, so I'm proud of you. Anything that you need from me, you know, it's always, I'm always here for you, bro. I know you're always there for me. I'm super, super proud of you, bro. And, you know, we'll do round 2 of this in a year. Yeah, you know, bro. But I'm going to ask you for a big favor.
Yeah.
You know, the festival is March 18th.
Yeah.
Right? I want you to get on stage and kick one of your cuts.
Yeah?
Yeah, all right?
All right.
You promise?
Yeah.
All right, then.
Let's do it.
We shake on it, right?
Right for me. Shout out to my family, bro. You know, there's still some struggles there in my family. Whether it's mental health or substance abuse. But just know that
you're leading the way.
Yeah,
you're leading the way.
I love you guys, and I'm here, and this is why I'm doing this shit, man.
Well, I'm proud of you, bro.
To change dynamics.
That's right. That's all it is, bro. Yeah. We have to completely change and navigate the dynamic that we experienced when we were growing up.
I say it in the most humble way. Like, I have to be the leader. Yeah. I'm the youngest sibling, but I have to be the leader.
Hey, bro, there's only chronological age.
I'm gonna be the voice.
Chronological age
voice
doesn't
will
mean
change.
anything, dog.
Yeah.
You know? Well, man, you know, I'm proud of you, bro. I love you, man. Keep going. And I got your back. Always, bro. All right?
Sabe, carnal.
All right, broski. All right, no doubt.
Yeah.